With pockets deeper than the Mariana Trench, an entourage of stunning models, and a daily drug intake that could make a pharmacist blush, Belfort truly lived life on an electrifying edge. At the peak of his career, it was said that his net worth skyrocketed to a mind-boggling $1 billion. But how did he accumulate such a fortune? Was his life truly as wild as portrayed in the blockbuster movie The Wolf of Wall Street? Truth be told, it was even wilder, bordering on the edge of sheer insanity at times. The mere fact that he's still around today could be labeled a miracle, given the insane stunts he pulled. But before we dive into the madness, let's take a look at how life started for Belfort. Jordan Belfort's journey began in 1962, growing up in the heart of Queens, New York. After hearing his study in dental school was no path to financial success, he quickly dropped out. At just 22, he started his career in the world of door-to-door sales in Long Island, selling meat and seafood. He started out pretty successful, and he managed to expand the business to a point where his team moved a staggering 2 tons of product weekly. Yet, by 25, the enterprise crumbled due to inefficiencies and poor money management, forcing Belfort into bankruptcy. After his failed business, he started working as a stockbroker, an eyebrow-raising choice for someone whose money management caused his previous business's downfall. But Belfort seemed to possess an innate knack for the trade. At the age of 30, he, alongside Danny Perush and David Blake, founded Stratton Oakmont. And this, my friends, is where the roller coaster of chaos begins. In its early days, Stratton Oakmont started out as a brokerage firm, aiming to engage in legitimate stock trading. But the slow-paced world of traditional trading didn't align with the hunger of Belfort and Perush. Their appetite for rapid success led them to unearth the highly lucrative pump-and-dump scheme. This cunning strategy involved Stratton Oakmont purchasing hefty chunks of low-valued stocks, then artificially inflating their prices through aggressive, deceptive promotion aimed at unsuspecting investors. As these stocks soared to unprecedented heights, Stratton Oakmont would unload their shares, reaping colossal profits. However, the method to their madness lay in the subsequent massive sell-off of these shares, triggering a chain reaction that left investors clutching onto nearly worthless stocks. The amount of money they made in such short time periods fueled their greed. Employees were incentivized to push the boundaries of legality and ethics. Besides their beloved pump-and-dump schemes, Stratton Oakmont also used so-called boiler room tactics, where brokers would use aggressive and persistent methods to persuade clients to buy the stocks they were pushing, often using false or exaggerated information about the stocks. This also created a company culture where making money was the number one priority, no matter the consequences. Following their success, Belfort and his associates indulged in a lifestyle of excess to an extreme danger. The immense wealth they accumulated from their fraudulent activities allowed them to afford extravagant parties, luxury cars, mansions, and more. And it didn't take long before the drugs were embedded in their lifestyle. The combination of immense wealth, a culture that glorified excess, and the pressure to maintain an opulent lifestyle led to the rampant use of drugs and engaging with prostitutes among Belfort and his inner circle. This hedonistic lifestyle became intertwined with the fraudulent activities and unethical business practices at Stratton Oakmont. The fact that he could endure such massive amounts of drugs speaks to how his body had adapted to this extravagant lifestyle. And it wasn't just Belfort. His right-hand man, Perush, was reportedly a substantial Quaalude addict. When the leaders of a company are so out of control, it becomes challenging for others not to follow suit. Belfort compared all this craziness to the days of the Roman Empire, where the people were kept entertained by the Colosseums. Keeping the employees entertained was a skill Jordan Belfort excelled at naturally. Whenever they needed their workforce to rally, especially when pushing stocks for a critical IPO, Jordan had the charisma to energize the crowd. His words held so much sway that it almost didn't matter what he said. They simply followed their leader. This isn't to say he merely spoke aimlessly. Quite the contrary, he was well-spoken and knew precisely how to convey his message. After all, he was an exceptional salesman. This influence led their employees to push beyond their usual boundaries. You might assume it's easy for employees to reject morally questionable actions, but Stratton Oakmont created a bubble where it felt like us against the world. It took tremendous courage to be the sole dissenter in an environment that practically idolized its leaders, and those who did muster the courage to object were summarily fired on the spot. They took their schemes to new heights by orchestrating initial public offerings, IPOs, for various companies. An IPO is the process of a company's shares being publicly listed on an exchange for the first time. Belfort would instruct external parties, often referred to as rat holes, to acquire the stock of a company he was about to take public. When the company debuted on the public market, Jordan directed his legion of brokers to sell the IPO stock to their extensive network of contacts. This inflated the stock's price, making it attractive to other investors. The rat holes could then discreetly sell their shares during the buying frenzy, resulting in substantial profits. Eventually, the money from these rat holes flowed back into Belfort's pockets, amassing him a colossal fortune. His firm employed this strategy to take dozens of companies public, with the most famous being Steve Madden. All the madness reached its highest point at Belfort's bachelor party, where he brought along 100 Stratton Oakmont employees, accompanied by an equal number of escorts, for a weekend-long bachelor trip to Las Vegas. He reserved an entire floor at the Mirage and hosted a party that pushed the boundaries of sanity. Belfort admitted that virtually the entire staff was under the influence of drugs for the entire trip, starting from the moment they boarded the airplane. He mentioned consuming a cocktail of substances, including alcohol, cocaine, Quaaludes, Xanax, and various others all at once. The revelry reached such an extreme that Belfort eventually decided to exit the party and head to the casino, where he later passed out. In the end, he lost approximately $30 million in gambling, with several million more added for the damages caused during the escapade. The ability to casually lose $30 million in a single weekend without losing a night's sleep speaks volumes about the staggering magnitude of his wealth. One might assume that with such immense wealth, there would be a point where it becomes enough. Strangely, for Belfort, it was never solely about financial security. It was about the power and status that money afforded him. But how could Belfort and his company get away with this all? Well, they couldn't. Throughout Stratton Oakmont's history, the National Association of Securities Dealers relentlessly pursued legal actions against the firm. Eventually, the NASD amassed enough evidence to warrant his arrest. In exchange for a reduced sentence, Jordan agreed to provide crucial information about other offenders. Ultimately, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison, but served only 22 months. In total, his pump and dump schemes were estimated to have cost investors as much as $200 million.
So what do you think? Leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe for more captivating true crime from Reely Unreal. Stay curious, stay connected, stay with Reely Unreal.